Hello again, I'm Steve Kime with the City of Enid. We're at the Enid Television Network studios today at the Roundtable. My very special guest is Colonel Corey Simmons. Colonel, good to see you again.
Sir, great to be back.
Thanks for
Happy
joining
to
us.
be here.
Man, you've been hanging out in our studio quite a bit. This is probably your third time, but you're always welcome. May the record show you're always welcome.
That's right. Whether I want it or not, I'm here. I like it. I'm happy to be here.
For those of you that have just recognized, you've seen this gentleman at some of the city council meetings. Colonel Simmons will probably tell us in a few moments how long he's been with us. He's kind of new to the Enid community, but he is commander of the 71st Flying Training Wing at Vance Air Force Base, and he leads a wing of more than 2,700 personnel conducting joint specialized undergraduate pilot training, and we'll get into some specifics on what Vance is all about in just a few moments. Colonel, I was talking with Mayor Shuey the other day, and we were outside and we heard a jet go by, and he said, "Steve, that's the sound of freedom." And I hear people from different times, they'll make that statement, that's the sound of freedom. And if you give it some thought, that's a true statement. So when a jet flies above, and I'm sure, I mean, you've grown up into that, but what's the thought that comes to mind when you hear a jet just go roaring by?
Well, one, it's the sound of combustion, gasoline, and noise sometimes, but it is the sound of freedom. It really is. I mean, for us that put the uniform on every day, especially in the Air Force, I mean, that's what we do. You know, we bring air power throughout the world whenever the president and our country needs it to be there. And the beauty of Vance is that capability, it all starts in Little Enid, America. Yeah. It's kind of hard to believe that, I mean, at least a third of all pilots that are currently serving, a third of them went to Vance. You know, and so you little piece here in Oklahoma, I can take any airplane anywhere in the world, and I can find a Vance graduate that lived their time here in Enid that are making that kind of magic happen for our country. It is kind of absolutely the sound of freedom.
And I can find a Vance graduate as well. My mother-in-law, who's 95 years old, she lives in a retirement home in Oklahoma City, but in that same retirement home are some Vance pilots. So whenever I go and sit down and have dinner with my mother-in-law, those guys will come by and say, "Steve, what's going on in Enid?" And it's amazing the expanded family from even back in World War II where these guys began. A lot of people go through the gates here.
I'll add, I mean, when we joke, and we actually mean the joke at Vance, when two pilots meet, they ask two questions. What pilot training class were you in? And where did you go to pilot training? Yeah. And it's kind of the sniff check of how good of a pilot are you? And I'll tell you, when you come to Vance, a couple things you know about Vance pilots. They know how to fly in windy conditions, right? They absolutely know that. And then the other thing, we also came from the best community. You know, and so folks that have been graduates of Vance, they're pretty proud to have had association with the town.
Well, Colonel, can you kind of give us an idea from time to time? Many of us in the community, we know something is going on south of the community. We see the jets flying and the props flying, but how much training takes place? Can you kind of give us a synopsis of really the output of Vance Air Force Base?
Yeah, sure.
Because they're impressive numbers and we don't hear it enough.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of forget for a little bit that the third busiest airport in the Air Force is sitting here in Enid, America.
Interesting.
I mean, roughly on any given day, we'll have just short of 300 sorties between our T6s, our T38s, and our T1s.
And your sorties, again, is another term for flights.
Yeah,
Could you use flights?
Yeah, absolutely. A flight's the same thing. And so out of those 300 flights that take off at any given day, we will execute somewhere between 700 and 1,000 landings as these guys are practicing how to fly airplanes and the like. So, and with most of the T6, the smaller propeller airplane, and our T38 fighter aircraft spending most of their time in the Vance pattern. So the ones that the community sees the most are our T6s and T38s. The T6s on the east side of town, and the T38s spending most of their time on the west side of town, while our T1s, they kind of sneak off back and forth and go into some of the other airports like Stillwater and Clinton Sherman and up to Wichita and the like. But, you know, when you sit and think about how much stuff goes on, I mean, there's more flights in Little Enid, America than there are in Oklahoma City, Wichita, and Tulsa combined. You sit here and you think about that for a second.
Because those are busy airports.
Those are busy airports that have international flights. But I mean, every single day. I mean, I hate to use the joke. It's a Tuesday at Vance. We're going to pull off another 1,000 sorties. And so to be able to create the 350 to 450 pilots that we're being asked to put out on any given year, that's a lot of jet fuel. That's a lot of airplanes. That's a lot of great contractor and civilian support that all work down there to make that happen. Let me just say this: I had been out of pilot training for 15 years when I came back. When I left pilot training, I was just an instructor pilot. And you come back as the guy in charge, and you realize, holy crap, there's a lot of stuff that makes this happen, and the scale is a lot bigger than I actually believed when I took over.
Colonel Simmons, let me share some numbers with you and also our viewers. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It says to date, almost 34,000 pilots have earned their wings here at Vance by training in the busy and complex airspace overhead. In 2018, the 71st Flying Training Wing produced 324 pilots, and it's getting busier. You mentioned about ramping things up. The expectation is higher, not less. What's going to take place? Well, let me back up. If we're doing 324 pilots, say last year, what is the prescription for future years, and how are you going to meet that need?
Yeah, so right now,
because we're hearing increase.
Yeah, and you're going to hear increase. So the Secretary of the Air Force has asked Vance to do upwards of 450 pilots this year. So that's our target goal.
So that's 100 plus more than normal.
About 30%, about a 30% increase, and we'll do some of that with just some of the innovations that we've found inside some of our simulators and some of our virtual reality training. But that's also going to be an uptick in actual sorties as well. And so where in the past we may have done 270, 260 sorties a day, we'll be pushing 300 on most days to be able to find that capacity. But the prescription right now is 450 pilots advance in fiscal year 2018, and it's under the assumption that we'll pull that off, which I believe that we will. I can only expect that the Secretary will look at Enid America and say, I'm going to need a little bit more. And what are we going to be able to do that? And that usually translates into potentially some more jobs and some more opportunities and some more things, but all things that that make Vance Air Force Base, I hate to use the term ever irreplaceable, but pretty dang close, and that's kind of where I like it to be.
And we realize in the military, no is not in the vocabulary, so you got to find a way to say yes.
Yeah, for the most part.
Now, Colonel Simmons, I've been here for 5 years. Of course, I grew up in Oklahoma. I grew up in a small town over by Perry, so I'm very familiar with Enid, even though I've only been here for 5 years. And I was amazed when I got here to learn how many students, I'll just use that word and you can correct me if I'm wrong, came from the Air Force Academy. Mm-hmm. I was just amazed at the number. And then I got involved in the Honorary Commander Program, and I learned so much more about, there were from foreign countries people at Vance. And I just kind of had this mindset that this was all a U.S. deal and students just came from everywhere. Students do come from everywhere. Mm-hmm. That sounds like at Vance. Can you kind of give us a demographic look of what,
yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. So in any given time, we have somewhere between 20 and 25 international students here. Our main customer has been Saudi Arabia for the last little bit, but we've had folks from Qatar, we've had folks from Nigeria, we've had. It is really a blessing to be able to introduce ourselves to their culture. We just graduated a student from Iraq. They're very, very capable. We love reminding our allies that that after they're done training with us, that we're fully prepared to fight with them, and expect that if asked, that they will fight with us. And it really creates a very unique relationship. And I'll just say, for the folks who come here as international students, these guys are pretty awesome. The folks that are asked to come fly T-38s or with us at Vance, these guys end up becoming the chiefs of their service 20 and 25 years down the road. I mean, these are the guys that are going to lead their country's air forces, and so these are special human beings. And and we have the opportunity to be able to break bread with those folks and be able to spend some time with them, and allow our lieutenants to engage with their lieutenants. And so 25 years from now, some of those relationships were cultivated right here. Which I think is a benefit that we just kind of miss sometimes. I know for a fact that the chief of the German Air Forces now, I flew with him in pilot training when I was at Columbus. And so these relationships don't go away, and it's really unique that we get to do that here. And
I just dangerously assume that many of the students are the top 1% of the 1%. So, and I want you to feel confident in this interview. I graduated in the top 10% of the lower 1/3 of my class.
Yeah, I graduated summa cum barely. So I mean, let's just be very, very clear. Summa cum barely from my school.
Welcome to Tell the Truth today. Very good. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the noise. A little bit. I remember playing at a golf course And if you see my golf game, you'd understand. But I was in the Dallas area, and I was playing this particular course, and all these planes kept coming in to land. They weren't impacting my game whatsoever. But it was just amazing. I look up, here comes a jet, it comes a different one, and I was just amazed at that, about the traffic. But let's talk about noise. And it may increase, I guess, a little bit here in the Enid area due to the requests from our government to produce more pilots. I think there's three, maybe we can just center it on three reasons why it can be noisier on a Monday versus a Tuesday or a Friday or something like that. Well, number one is weather. What does weather have to do with the noise level of a jet?
Yeah, so I have three main reasons, right? So weather, winds, clouds, and temperature. Those are kind of the three things that would impact noise in any one way, shape, or form. You know, in Oklahoma, we're blessed in the fact that we generally know where the wind directions are going to come from. And when we build airports, like we built Woodring, or when Vance was built back, many years ago, they align the runways associated with the winds. So predominantly we like our winds out of the south here. That's where the warmer weather comes from. That's where all that niceness comes from. And in the summertime, you can almost wind your watch that you've got a southerly wind out of here. So from April to October, 9 out of 10 days, it's out of the south. And so that is helpful for Enid in the fact that, we're landing to the south, which means we're at higher altitudes over the city, 1,500 feet and higher as we come into land. And the power settings are nice back toward idle, so it doesn't sound as loud for folks. And so I hate to use the term that after a time you kind of forget that the jets are here, because that it's kind of the dullness of that at those higher altitudes. When we do get the northerly winds, which as we're coming into October through April through the winter months, it's almost a coin flip. As we get into November, December, and January, is that going to be that cold north wind or the little warmer south wind? And you just don't really know. And so the winds pay the biggest difference for us on noise, because if the winds are out of the north, we're forced to take off to the north, which means that we'll be over the city at a little bit lower altitudes. Nothing dangerous, nothing to be alarmed about. It's the same procedures that have been used for many, many, many years. And they're going to be closely aligned with runway centerline, which kind of goes just to the east of Oakwood Country Club as you kind of extend through town. And so no real changes there. Temperature, as it's colder, sound just travels, it doesn't travel as fast, which means it stays stagnant. Which means that on a cold winter morning, if it's nice and clear, it'll sound a little louder than it may be on other days.
How about if it's not nice and clear? You mentioned earlier just a little bit about the clouds may have an impact. Do they act like a blanket or something?
You couldn't have given me a better word. It is exactly a blanket, and it's the one that you wouldn't think. So if the clouds are really low, 400 or 500 feet, we're actually above the clouds by the time we get to town, and so the buffer is actually in a good way. The buffer's away from the city. But if you've got that normal, I call January, December, 2,000 foot overcast, it's almost like sitting inside a dome, right? And so as our power settings are a little higher for takeoff, you'll hear that noise bounce right off the top of the clouds and kind of hover and bounce down. And so it'll sound a little louder than it may on what we would call a summer day.
And I think our recommendation is the flight training is taking place, but we're not necessarily keeping track in the public, if you will. We're in our cars, we're in our home, we get out of our car, we go to a store, and we may not realize that it's a cold, well, we know it's a cold day, but the winds are out of the north side. Oh, okay, well, that's why I'm hearing this jet. Sometimes we don't put the two and two together. We just said, well, why is this loud today? And it wasn't this loud on a particular day. So weather, the clouds, runway location, and just those are some of the reasons why it seems to be a little bit noisy on particular days. Well, Colonel, we've given an insight, or you've given an insight what Vance is all about, and I certainly appreciate that. In our short time together here at the Roundtable, I want to give you this opportunity to speak to the folks, the camera, if you will, regarding your effort to meet the demand of the State Department, to increase flights, increase training. That's all to benefit Enid.
Absolutely.
And to benefit Vance. But what would you say to the audience? I guess this is going to go on for quite some time, but what word of advice would you share with folks?
Yeah, so here's what I'll share. So one, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to spend some time with you guys today, and honestly, just to tell the community, this is it is the best community that I've had the pleasure of serving in my 21 years of service. How the community embraces Vance is it's almost over the top awesome. And one of the ways that I hope that myself and the team at Enid, at Vance, gives back is just information. It's exactly what you said before. The base has been here a long time, and sometimes I would call our base kind of like oxygen. If it's there all the time, you breathe it in, you don't really notice it. But if something changes or something seems a little off, it's like the only thing you can think about, right? And so, as I was sitting talking to my wife, I said, hey, I want to spend some time talking with the town. What should I tell them about? And she says, well, tell them when things might change. If they see something, all they want is information. And so we're looking at our weather patterns and seeing that we're going to have the opportunity to fly north a little bit more. It's kind of cool that we spend a little time and just inform everyone that, yeah, we're going to fly a little bit north for a little bit as the weather patterns change. And then as we get back into the summer months, it'll go back to the south and we'll kind of do our thing. But here, my plea to everybody in Vance is the folks who wear the uniform at Vance are very, very proud to have this patch, on their shoulder, that it says Enid America, it says Vance Air Force Base. Right. Our mantra at our base right now is Vance Proud. You could easily change that to Enid Proud, and we'd be just as happy to wear that as well. What's Vance Air Force Base is Enid, and Enid is Vance. You feel it everywhere you go. I feel it every single time I step into a store. People are excited that we're here, and so our promise to you is that we'll never embarrass this town. We'll always put put you in our forefront of our minds at any given time, because at the end of the day, we want our pilots to leave here sticking their chests out that they're Vance proud and they're from Enid. So thanks for the opportunity to be in here. I really appreciate it. I like telling folks the scope and scale of what's going on just south of Enid so that they can be as proud of as I am.
Well said. Colonel Simmons, thanks for being here. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being here. And this is just a reminder, you always have the platform here at the Enid Television Network. Give me a call. We'll get together and we'll keep the public informed on what's going on at Vance Air Force Base.
Sounds good. Vance proud, everybody. Thank you so much.
The sound of freedom. So when the jet goes by, just be mindful of that, which is one of Mayor Bill Shuey's favorite statements, the sound of freedom. Thank you for joining us today at the Roundtable. I hope you've enjoyed the little insight that Colonel Corey Simmons has provided us today. The Colonel's been with us, what'd you say, 100 plus days or something like that?
Almost 100 days.
Almost, okay.
That's right.
So we'll stay in touch and we'll keep everybody informed. Thanks for joining us at the Roundtable. I'm Steve Kime with the City of Enid. Make it a great day, everyone. Thanks for watching.